Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sunday, the 13th of December. We are rapidly charging towards Christmas. Here we are yet again in the grotto. Good evening, Mr. P. How are you doing in your period of isolation at the moment?
Well, developments on the isolation front. Far be it from me to even remotely say anything positive about our current administration, but they have changed the rules slightly. So it would appear that my 14-day isolation has now been downgraded to 10 days, which means that on Tuesday night I am allowed out once more. So I will have done my isolation period, and I will be allowed out 3 days early, because I was supposed to be out on the Friday, but I think it's going to be Tuesday instead.
No, I understand that despite you being isolated, you did have a visitor today, didn't you?
I did have a visitor today, yes,
Yeah.
and
thanks to Miss Elizabeth Pollard here, brackets the boss. Yeah, boys, thank you for that.
And funnily enough, those elves, they are no respecter of COVID-induced distance.
No, you could say they have no sense of health and safety.
No, none whatsoever. And I can only hope that that particular one does indeed remain elfy over the next 14 days. I would hate for that to pass on any ill elf to any of the other.
Or indeed overburden our National Health Service. Right.
Indeed.
Obviously,
yes,
last
week
right. we did have some technical difficulties on Wednesday, and would like to issue an apology. And well, run VT.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company. Now, I understand that last week there were some technical problems, for which we would like to apologise. This was caused by issues at the local telephone exchange, and obviously we were all jolly disappointed by the results. But rest assured, we always strive for the highest broadcast quality on the Interesting Modelling Company. So in the meantime, please enjoy tonight's broadcast. And remember,
well, I think that settles it, really. You know,
I think that pretty much sums up our feelings on the matter.
Absolutely, and, yeah. Nothing more has to be said.
And frankly, if we can get to that level of quality this evening, we'll be strides ahead of what we managed to do last Wednesday. So yes, let's hope for the best.
So. Where are we with projects this week? Actually, we've got. Let's have an update on your book. How are you getting on with the book at the moment?
The book will be finished tomorrow. I've finished writing it, so tomorrow will be a few little bits and pieces, a couple of summaries, that kind of thing. So the book is designed, it's all written, it's all done. I'll finish off the final little couple of pieces before lunchtime. I'll proofread it tomorrow. I will then re-proofread it on Tuesday, and it will go to the printers Tuesday night.
Excellent.
Being well. So it's all done. It's all finished. 5 weeks start to finish for this project, which I'm really, really pleased with, and really pleased with the model. I'm actually really pleased with the book. But also, I'd like to thank everybody publicly as well that's bought a copy, or rather pre-ordered a copy, because nobody's actually bought one just yet, but pre-ordered a copy of this. It just outstripped my expectations no end, and I really want to thank everybody for that. It sort of made it's definitely made this project worthwhile, and I hope they enjoy it when they've got it in their hands, which probably will be after Christmas now. But thank you very much for taking the time and for ordering one of these. It really means a lot to me. And also, I will publicly thank you once again for the help that you've given me, because you've not only supplied the design for the front cover, you've also allowed me to use camouflage scheme drawings in there, and you've written a very nice introduction as well to the book. So thank you for your work.
That's okay.
As well. It's, you know, it's really nice to be able to bring other people into these projects, and I'm extremely grateful to you guys for helping out with what you do, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So I'd like to publicly thank you for that.
Well, that's very kind of you. I mean, I am still. Once I finished writing that the intro this week, I was still then looking at those Marine Flieger tornadoes in the dark grey, light grey scheme, and just thinking, oh, they're lovely.
They are very nice, aren't they?
So I think that's the best scheme ever worn by a tornado of any air arm ever. I think controversial.
Indeed. Yes, I might be in agreement with you slightly. And I still haven't got past the idea of building one of these monogram ones either. So, which again, I have to thank you for, because you sent me the kit. So
well, I got that and the F-15, although the F-15 I got wasn't the prototype kit. It's the one with the dogtooth tailor on. So I still would like to get hold of one of the actual prototype monogram F-15 kits at some stage, but that's far off in the future. Current projects, well, right, okay. The poor Semavente, right. We have finally managed to get the rest of the there's the logo. We finally managed to get the rest of the superstructure in place today. And there's that interior that I spent far too long working on, which is barely going to be seen. But then, there you go. Then we finally got the upper structure in place, and we're on the final gallop now. I mean, this afternoon it just started really kind of flying together. We were chatting about this before the show, and the one observation I would make is that for a 2020 brand new tool kit, it at times feels distinctly 1970s. Now, that's a kind of double-edged sword, really, because Italeri were making, back in the 1970s, some of the finest armor kits out there. I'd actually say Italeri's 70s armor kits were better than Tamiya. They were more detailed. I think they were certainly more accurate in many respects. But honestly, I've enjoyed this Semavente. I'm sure the Semavente hasn't enjoyed me, but I've enjoyed building it. And there's no major problems with it. But it's always a case that it's almost there, but not quite. And there are some things on this where you couldn't help but think, had this been a Tamiya kit, the fit there would have been more positive, or this would have been designed in a slightly different way. So I know it's kind of apples and oranges, and we shouldn't compare the two. But that's the honest assessment I've had throughout building this, is that it's kind of got one foot in the modern age with things like photo etch, but there are some other bits in this that feel distinctly kind of decades behind. And certainly the figures are, the figures in this aren't particularly brilliant. So I think for anybody who thinks that, we get these things and all we do is sing their praises, this is a good kit, but there are bits of it that just feel kind of, from another era.
How do you think your opinion of the kit so far will change once you've painted it and it's weathered?
Absolutely.
Do you think it will change over that? Because you're obviously assessing it at the moment only on the sort of the way it's going together. But once it's painted and weathered, and you can see the levels of detail or not, you can see the finesse or not. Do you think that will alter your opinion?
I'm sure it will, because my argument is always, this is the thing I don't like about in-box assessments, is that model kits, their raison d'etre, as the French would say, is they are there to be built, painted, deckled and weathered. And so I always say, well, show me what it looks like at the end of the process rather than tell me your opinion at the beginning of the process, because I think down the years, far too many perfectly serviceable kits have been completely damned because they weren't, they're not a Tamiya kit, they're not this, they're not that. Well, show me what it looks like, when it's actually kind of built. It's like saying, here is a piece of music, it's rubbish. Well, play it. Let's hear the orchestration, and then make our minds up then, rather than just going, on paper, the bassoons are wrong and the horns are wrong and the violins are in the wrong place. So like I say, it's not a criticism per se, it's an observation that it just feels like a kit that I would be very curious to see the original Semavente kit to make a comparison, to see how far how different this one is.
Yeah, it would also be interesting for you to compare it to the Tamiya kit. Obviously, they did the Semavente and they did the gun tank as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to sort of see how that. But I'm fascinated to see how much of a canvas it becomes for you once it's done. And also, we don't have a huge amount of choice of 35th scale Semaventes to work from. So again, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But I do know what you mean, having worked on.
Yeah, in terms of a canvas, it's this has got to be built as a display model. So I don't get the option of being able to throw kind of, I don't get the option of doing a Martin Kovac on it. Let's put it that way. It will be painted, it'll be built straight from the box. It'll be painted. There will be some weathering. You need something there to kind of give it a bit of story, I think is the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But no, I'm honestly, I'm enjoying it, and I think it's the first Italian armor kit I've made in this scale. So the finish is going to be a challenge, and we were talking about that before the show started. But no, honestly, it is just an observation that as I've been building this, I've been thinking to myself, if you didn't tell me this was a 2020 kit, I could easily believe this was one of their very fine offerings from the 1970s. And like I say, the context here is you have to look at what Italeri were doing in the 1970s, because their stuff was above Tamiya, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
The sharpness and the detail was, and when you think about it, back in the 1970s, they were pretty much the only consistent manufacturers bringing out new kits.
Yeah,
you had other companies that kind of came and went, like Max, Peerless Max, and stuff like that. But it was Italeri and Tamiya, and that was
and interestingly as well, along similar lines, you sent me the Hetzer, didn't you, and the SAS. The European SAS Jeep for me to have a look at, and they sort of are good examples of kits from that era. So, and I'm looking forward to building both of those. So that will be something to bear in mind as well, to see whether or not they're good canvases for earlier kits, especially the Hetzer, because it's been slightly reworked from the original 1970s release, in that it's got Lincoln length tracks and it's got new wheels as well, which I noticed. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how this works. But I do know what you mean. And we pride ourselves on this program of being as honest as we can, not damning things, but saying things as they are, and then we let everybody else that's watching this make up their own mind, don't we?
It's placing them within a context, and I think in modeling, context is everything. So
yes, indeed.
And the context with this is that when it's actually painted and finished and etc., that's going to be the arbiter. Although I have to say, perhaps again, one of the weak spots of this kit are the rubber band tracks. Usually I'm lazy. I'm just like, rubber band tracks, brilliant. These
yes, I know how you feel.
These are exceptionally kind of woolly, I think is a good way of putting it.
So some chap posted a photograph up on one of the forums yesterday, and he'd spent something like 8 hours putting together a set of Panther 2 tracks that were something like 5 or 6 links per link, and he'd done a length about that long, and it had taken him 8 hours. I was like, that isn't for me. That is not. I do not love that enough to spend my life putting that together.
I know we were talking about this on Wednesday, about these kind of personal rites of passage that I think we as individual modelers sometimes think that, well, I need to tick that off the bucket list. And certainly at some stage, doing a set of free model tracks is on my list of kind of masochistic things to try and put myself through. But not at the moment.
If you pick the bigger sets, they're actually not too bad. They're fine. It's when you have them and they're multi-linked. Moving on, though, we have we can begin our news tonight with what is rapidly becoming 2020's interesting modeling company favorite manufacturer, if not for the amount of time we spend talking about their products. But they have got a wonderful new release haven't they? For
Are we
us to
talking
have a
about?
look
Are we
at.
talking about Starfix, or who are we talking about here?
Well, we could
Talking
talk
about
about
mini
Starfix.
art.
Look at this.
Oh goodness me! If you didn't
Isn't
think
that
you
wonderful?
wanted one, you want one now.
That is just magnificent, isn't it?
Well, it's down as German traffic tractor D8532. Now, on the script here, I think you're down to talk about this one, but I don't know about you. I couldn't find anything about this vehicle today.
Well, it's thank you for putting me on the spot for me to chat. I have to say this probably follows on from the original, the Lance Bulldog that they released earlier on, which looks to be a slightly smaller vehicle. This doesn't look to be the same tractor, but certainly it's got a few additions that make it more of a modern piece, which I quite like. The cab in particular and the front mudguards. I have to say though, I'd love to convert this into something that had a loader on the front of it, something like that, or certainly a trailer and those kind of things. We love these tractors, don't we? And you and I, we ought to spend next year just having tractor challenges where we each build tractors and see what we can do with them in 10 days.
Do you know what? I actually think that getting one of this kit and the other one, and then just flipping a coin to see who builds what, and then going for it, rather than building the same one, is actually build the two different models.
Yes. Would that be something to amuse your good self over the coming months?
Apart from the fact that we've probably got next year's worth of challenges already stacking up here. Honestly, I have made a point that next year I certainly on this page I do want to start covering what Dave Fleming actually coined today, which was the I think he called them the I had it on the tip of my tongue there, the bit like the craft beers. You have the people who make the bespoke kind of beers and things, and he came up with the
artisan.
That was it.
Artisan companies.
Artisan companies like Mini Art, like Dora Wings and Wingsy, and the other one that I keep forgetting, and again it was on the tip of my tongue just now. Armor, and all these kind of like artisan companies. But yes, let's go through. I think there are 4 color schemes in this.
This one's the same as the original Bulldog, isn't it? The green color scheme. I kind of like this one, although I do like the red one on the box, I have to say. Grey, presumably stock kind of German grey. Yeah. The red one that's the box art, which I do like. I have to say, I like the red color scheme. And finally, this pale blue one.
I love this one.
Yes, what I really love about we've mentioned this before. What I really love about Mini Art, and I love about their box art and their color scheme information, is all you have to do to make a wonderful looking model is copy those drawings. That's pretty much it, isn't it? I mean, if you were to build a model and paint it so that it looked like that drawing, you'd be home and hosed, wouldn't you? I mean, that's just fabulous. I have to say, I really do love it a lot. And I can definitely see a friend of mine got in touch with me yesterday, actually, and he said, have you considered building a diorama only featuring Mini Art products? One of their vehicles, some of their accessories, one of their buildings, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, I haven't really, despite the fact that we've sort of talked about them a lot. But that would open up brilliant possibilities for some nice kind of like a little vignette around it, because this model won't be very big. I think we need to remember that this is quite a small tractor. You can get a sense of how big this is by the size of the cab, and I would imagine a 54mm figure will stand towards the height of if not slightly above the height of the mudguard at the back. So that'll give you an idea of how small this tractor is. But I'm imagining there'll be lots of detail in this, and you can kind of see from it.
I'm thinking this is probably about the size of one of the smaller, kind of like something like a David Brown tractor.
Yes, I would think so. Yeah, very much so.
Tiny thing.
And also, it would certainly make an interesting. You've got all of these tractors are 1950s variants. So also, I was slightly turned towards the idea of building, maybe an exercise diorama with an early 1950s vehicle in a farmyard, and having one of these. This is the secondary vehicle, maybe by the side of a barn or something like that. And I think that would maybe be a nice thing. It would make the perfect secondary vehicles for something like that. So this is a great release from Mini Art. We keep repeating the same thing, don't we? Over and over and over again. I'm sure our viewers are getting really bored with us saying, you know what? Mini Art have come up with another great kit, but it's another great kit. And
their business model fascinates me because they obviously have a very strong core market whereby they can go out on a limb with some of these things, and that they know that their overheads and their production runs and everything will cover it. They will get their money back. And again, a lot of that could be down to the fact that things like Panzer IVs and Lee Grant tanks, etc., and T-34s and things like that cover the costs of these slightly more experimental.
Absolutely. And also, I'm going to put money on it. Not a lot of money, because I don't have a lot of money, but I'm going to put money on it that at some point in the near future, Mini Art turn their attention to trailers, agricultural trailers, and agricultural implements to go behind these tractors. I think that is an absolutely cast iron possibility that they'll do that. Like remember the old Italeri trailer set where they had the water trailer and they had the ammunition trailer, and it was like in the same sort of set. I would imagine that Mini Art must be sharpening their pencils over the idea of something like that. And I think that would be brilliant. Little plows and all of those kind of things that you can have being towed behind these. And also, I'm sure that at some point they're going to come up with, like I say, the kind of tractor that's got a little loader on the front, little digger bucket on the front. I think that'd be brilliant. I love the idea of it.
I would not be surprised if in the next 12 months they actually do announce a David Brown tractor. Wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yes.
Of these colour schemes, I do say, it has to be said, I love this one. I love this kind of like mid-powder blue.
Yeah.
And just that juxtaposition with the red of I think that's probably just like a red oxide, because they've all got red hubcaps.
Yes.
So I think that's just like a red primer. But if when I was scouting around for a new car and I was looking to see what binnies were for sale, I did have half of my heart was on getting like a powder blue binny with a white roof.
Nice color scheme.
It's fun, but Mini Art for the win yet again.
Yes,
and I don't think we've finished with Mini Art tonight either.
Shall we do that one now then? Shall we, while we're talking about the glorious Mini Art? Should we do the complete our look with those?
Let's take a chance. Let's go off script. Let's go off script here. So Mini Art, I mean, this is I'm not going to say it's from the sublime to the ridiculous, because that's not what we mean, but they go from the sublime to the not the extraordinary, just the everyday. I don't know how you word it, but essentially one of their other releases that they got coming soon is a set of wooden barrels. Now, again, you might think, well, that's, wooden barrels. How not exactly going to set the modeling world alight, is it? However, if you're a diorama builder or a military modeler, etc., look at these. These are absolutely fabulous.
Yes.
Again, as I often say with a lot of these Mini Art sets, you buy these and you dip in, take out what you want, and then you don't buy them as kits, you buy them as things, as add-ons. They have included a number of decals here for some, what I'm assuming are brands of beer or sherry. Obviously, alcohol not included in this kit, but molding looks, beautifully sharp, and they give you 6 of these, including little trestles for them as well. What can you say? I mean, a bit like pigeons, you wouldn't think that would be something that you go, oh no, I really need a set of them, but I really need a set of these, and these are so pan genre that these would be at home in anything from Napoleonic to, I don't know, American War of Independence, World War One, World War Two, modern days. These are ageless. These are timeless.
They are literally timeless, aren't they, for what we do? And the other thing about them as well is that you can use them for other things too, because you can do with these barrels what a lot of people do. If you wanted to create sort of modern civilian scenes and that kind of thing, you can cut these barrels in half, fill them up with flowers and that kind of thing. It gives you another layer of ideas that you can create. But I'm already thinking about, I said this to you the other night, I'm already thinking about an Assassin's Creed kind of diorama set at the turn of the century in London on a dockside with a load of these wooden barrels, some pigeons, you know, a little kind of like a building in the background. Still life. You know, maybe some of the old, you know, the crates with the bottles in and all of that sort of stuff. You don't even need figures. That would be interesting enough. I think this is, I do love it. And I have to say, I genuinely love it. And also as a diorama builder, you try getting hold of resin barrels. They're so difficult to get hold of and they're expensive. Verlinden made some resin barrels, but that, you know, for 10 quid, you would get like 3 barrels in the box. Whereas for this, you're getting, what did you say, 12 barrels?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. 12
barrels for what? What's this going to retail for? 15 quid?
Probably, I'd say around about the £15 mark.
It's just fabulous. I genuinely love it. You know, and how about, you know, building a scene set in a, you know, in the basement of a kind of a winery or something with some German soldiers all camped out in there and that kind of thing, with these barrels on racks along one wall. And God, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
We have a comment here from Mr. Matt Whiting who says, "Queue loads of dioramas of German tank crews enjoying a stein of captured beer." Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm waiting for the avalanche of Panzer IVs with these barrels strapped to the engine deck. They'll become the hanging bucket of 2021. But they are wonderful
ideas. I love mini art. Unfortunately, my debit card doesn't like mini art.
Also, in the background of that picture, you can see a neat little trailer there with some wooden barrels on. Now, that's the kind of thing I was talking about mini art creating.
Are they dropping hints there?
What's the bet in that they would go for something like that? Absolutely. I honestly, I don't know, but I'm thinking that mini art, that's a direction to go down. Definitely.
I get the funny feeling the next time I am able to get out to the Frew Model Centre, which I'm hoping it's going to probably be looking like New Year now, but I'm hoping the next time I get that, essentially I'm going to clear them out of all their mini art stuff. So if you're watching,
we won't be able to see you because you'll just have a big pile of mini art accessory sets in front of you.
They are. I think they are rapidly turning into our manufacturer of the year. Were we to give out such an award?
Yes, which we aren't for fear of currying favour or not.
No,
that's the case, maybe.
I say we'll probably give out awards for mince pies, but not.
Yes, because we don't. Yes, we don't have to deal with those. Moving on, Dora Wings have released some more information on their Block 151 152 kit, which you can see here. I have to say, I like this family of aircraft. I think they're really pugnacious looking. So seeing this kit appear this week, or more information on this kit appear this week, I pleased me greatly. Hella had one of these kits in their range for quite a while, which you can still pick up. You can still get hold of these things from the second-hand market. But this is a step up from what Hella had produced and is fairly typical of the kind of kits that we're seeing from these artisanal model manufacturers. So,
have you ever built the Hella kit?
I haven't. No, I've never built one of these things.
Yeah,
so,
you don't want to build the Hella kit.
But this thing would certainly tantalize me enough into building one of these. And if once we've run through these photographs, I can perhaps show you why I'm intrigued by the idea of this. But you can see from this there's the levels of detail in there is really nice, and the parts that are included in the box seemingly offer both 151 and 152 variants as well.
The one observation I would make here and this is a tricky one. I know we do actually have a model designer watching tonight, so I've got to mark my words carefully here. But cowlings, by the looks of things, you're going to end up with seam lines right on the lip of the actual cowl itself.
Yeah.
Now, the problem you got there is, what else do you do? Because I can't see, unlike, say, things like on some of the British aircraft with the Bristol engines, where sometimes you can actually do the cowl ring and the collector as separate pieces, which is always good because you don't end up with a seam line right on the edge of the cowl. But on this, there are going to be. It shouldn't be a problem to deal with externally, but it's always those pesky internal seams.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a criticism. It's an observation, because looking at this, I can't see how else they could have done that, really. No. And also bearing in mind possibly the limitations of their molding as well. Like I say, that's just me being a bit pernickety. Also, the canopy is a bit opaque. But apart from that,
yes,
it'd be clear, is it?
It would be interesting with that cowling to see whether or not you can fit the engine after the cowling's been assembled, so that you can, in some ways, clean up that internal seam.
Do you know what? That's a good point, because looking at it here, I'm going to second guess this, but it looks like there is the firewall part is up there on the top left, and it looks like that those. I think you possibly could. I'll stick my neck out and say I think you possibly could.
Yeah, and you slip one inside the other. It doesn't look like there is much in the way of lugs inside that cowling, so that remains a distinct possibility. If you're having a look there, you can see there aren't other. So it would appear that the engine can be slipped into the completed cowling. But I agree with you on that each of those cowlings is 3 parts, and getting all of those lined up neatly, not necessarily around the upper, what looks like the upper section, but around that ring at the front, you'll certainly need to work on
again, that's probably a design consideration because of the undercuts and trying to get some of those shapes to mold properly. Certainly it couldn't be done as a single piece, and probably couldn't be done as 2 halves either. So I understand why they've done it. It's probably one of those kind of modeling, catch-22s or Kobayashi Marus. Whichever way you do it, it's going to be a no-win scenario. So
yes, absolutely. And it seems to be precious little to get too overwhelmed by. I think,
again, not criticism, observation. We have Mr. David Fleming here says, "Ooh, there's an RAF Mark 1 I'd like to do." Certainly, it is. I think. Have I built it? I think I've actually got a Hella one up in the attic. So again, this is one of these artisan manufacturers that we are going to have a look at in the new year, and try and get more of these things kind of built as ongoing projects, maybe even live projects as well, just to try and encourage people to, try these smaller manufacturers, give it a go.
Yeah, indeed. I mentioned earlier why I was sort of quite excited about the idea of this, and this is it. If you've seen this book, this is a Histoire and Collections book on French aircraft. But what's fabulous about it is it's filled with photographs and drawings and
there we go.
And within this book, there are sections on each of the aircraft, as you would kind of imagine. And there's a big section on the Block 151 to 155 family. And within the book, there are so many cool color schemes. So you can see these. And what I like about this, apart from the fact that French color schemes, I mean, how lovely is that?
Ooh la la.
Yes. Apart from the fact that French colour schemes are often glorious, they're a massive challenge to paint as well, especially in 72nd scale. This 72nd scale kit is not going to be very big. A 3-colour camouflage or 4-colour camouflage, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4-colour camouflage.
It can be done.
It's not going to be easy to apply, and it's going to be a real challenge, especially when it's trimmed. If you get one that's trimmed in red and yellow, but I think it would look fabulous, and I really love the idea of that. So I was looking at the kit and having seeing what it looked like, and then I picked up this book, and I was. Yes, I really do quite fancy the idea of doing this. So that's Dora Wings 72nd scale block. They've, as you can see, they've shown some sprue shots and everything. Still no information on color schemes and that kind of thing, I don't think, from what I've seen of their sites. But we'll bring you more information on that. And realistically, it's just a massive step up from the Hella kit. So anybody that wants to build this pretty famous French fire, this is going to be the way to do it. I would
it's also got that nice kind of, it slots in nicely with the Curtiss Hawks that the Army de l'Air flew as well. They're visually quite similar-ish looking aeroplanes. They have the format and everything on them is quite, there's a little bit of kind of similarity there. You're talking about, so I've just grabbed a picture here. You're talking about 4 color schemes. That's the Airfix Fuga Magister.
Well, that's pretty.
Which I built a few years ago. And that's actually, would you believe, that was actually all done with Vallejo Air.
Really?
On the day that it all decided to work for me.
That's great.
But I tell you what I did on that, and that's actually, I painted it reverse. So I should put the darker colors down first and the lighter colors down last.
That's really nice. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, it looks really good.
Tidy, still a very nice kit, actually, the Airfix one. Anyway, it can be done. It can be done. Let us now jump forward. See, now we're out of kilter here. I've got to try and work out where we are. Because let's have a look. Right. Well, you're on again, and we're going to talk about now. It's another artisan manufacturer, and this is Wings' 48 scale Kawasaki Ki-51 Sonia.
Yes, another pugnacious little aeroplane, which has got a really interesting history, I have to say. I was again doing some research on this. This is a Japanese kind of light bomber, dive bomber from Second World War, as you would kind of imagine, but it does have some interesting facts associated to it, which I managed to glean from online. How true these are, I'm not going to put too much money on, but certainly from what I could see, they were. The first one was on the day that Hiroshima was bombed. Two of these were responsible for the sinking of of a US warship, the USS. The last Japanese sinking of a warship was done by these two for the USS Bullhead with all hands. So that was an interesting thing. Also, Charles Lindbergh, flying a P-38 Lightning, shot down one of these things as well, which I thought was another interesting piece of information about these. Also, they were used in kamikaze attacks by all accounts. So it's a very interesting, I say little aeroplane. It's possibly not that small, but it's certainly not P-47 Thunderbolt sized. So you can get a sense of what this is like. But this continues Wings' kit program for 2020 and leading into 2021. It's not going to be released this year, so it will be a 2021 kit. But
I'm just going to say this isn't entirely new. This is a continuation of their Kawasaki 51 family.
Yeah.
So this has new decals in it, but as you can see from the instruction sheet, it's complex. There's a lot in this. The interior in particular is extremely involved. I was very impressed by that. The exterior of the airplane is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. So what they've done is they've concentrated far more on the interior and given that due care and attention. But also it offers some other choices as well. It offers 3 different undercarriage setups, for instance, fully spatted, half spat, and uncovered undercarriage legs as well, which I thought was a nice touch. But also, it gives you 8 different color schemes in this kit, which I thought were really good. Parts as well.
And photo etch parts. The 8 color schemes cover Chinese, Indonesian, French, and Manchurian colors in this.
That'd be my candidate.
Oh, there we go. And as you can see, there's quite a collection of color schemes in this. I think that obviously the French one is the highlight because it's such an unusual color scheme. But the marking options for the others is really nice, and the decal sheet certainly looks involved and offering plenty of bright markings to go alongside this. Again, this is going to be another one of those models that offers a real challenge for modelers when it comes to the color schemes, especially the kind of splodged aircraft, because in a number of cases those splodges weren't sprayed, they were hand painted on, so they were kind of sharp edged. So that's a real kind of challenge. But isn't it a pretty airplane for a spatted machine? It sort of has the look of a Texan. It's got that sort of feel about it. And when you look at it, if you were to take the undercarriage away, it certainly has that sort of feel, and the wing plan and everything about it. It looks like a Harvard T6.
Yeah, I can feel a debit card hit coming on in the new year, because again, they are one of these artisan, copyright Dave Fleming 2020, manufacturers that we are going to have a look at and go have a look at in a little bit more detail. I'm looking at all these color schemes and thinking that is a smorgasbord of interesting color schemes. Ironically, the one that I think that has the most interesting markings probably has the easiest color scheme. That's the one on the bottom right.
Yes, I agree. Yes, indeed.
But to me, the challenge there would be to make a single color scheme interesting through the deployment of subtle weathering, I think is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what we're going to have to do is in the new year we're going to have an off-air conversation and just draw up a short list, and then I'm just going to have to go out and buy these things. But it's going to be worth it, because we are the interesting modeling company, so we do want to bring you interesting models.
I think what's going to happen certainly over the next 12 months, you and I will be putting our heads together, and I will be at some point when it's safe to do so, be traveling down to the wonderful enclave of Somerset. And we will be discussing this maybe, and try and sort of put our heads together and see how many of these kits we can cover, because we're discussing them on here, and we sort of discuss them in passing on a Wednesday night. But as yet, we've not put any together, and that's the next step for us. And we've got plenty of opportunity to do that with some of the kits that we've looked at, and bring you more information on those. And I agree that these kits need to be built rather than just talked about, don't they?
I think the useful thing is that knowing people that we do who are very good at building, fantastic models. And in fact, if you have a look at if you ever go and look at Jen Wright's Genesis Models page, you will see she's completed her Zvezda C-130 and RAF markings.
Yep.
More remarkably, the wing isn't fixed in place.
Quite extraordinary.
I know. It's just like she can pick that off and put it back on at will. But the good thing about that is that yes, it does free. We know people who like to build the mainstream stuff. Whereas I think you and I, we do look at these things and we go, let's go off road a bit now and build some of these kind of lesser. I don't like to call them lesser known manufacturers, because it sounds like we're being a bit kind of not patronizing, but you know what I mean. We're being a little bit dismissive. They're not.
Up and coming is a better description, I think.
Yeah, they're not as mainstream as your Airfixes and Revels and Tamiya's and Itileris and etc. But they deserve the exposure because they are doing some fascinating subjects. And yeah, I mean, I've got that one of the Dora Wings Percival Proctors, which I'm hoping that I will actually put together over Christmas as a little me project. And I might even do it live on this channel so that I am forcibly compelled to actually get on with it. But yeah, we've talked about this, and it's things like the armor manufacturers, or indeed armor, but the companies like First to Fight and Armor Fast and S Model and the Plastic Soldier Company, all these things. I think there is fantastic scope out there to just look at them and say, well, these are off the beaten track. What can we do with them? Well, And I also think that in 2020, the fact that we're still able to do that, it just shows you how absolutely buoyant the hobby is at the moment.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is
yeah,
Wingsy's KI-51 Sonia, but we now move on to something completely different.
Well, I think we have covered this before, to be fair, we do try to even things out a bit so that we're giving some. Actually, excuse me a sec. Right, I was jumping ahead there for a second. Right, next we have Zvezda, another kit company who have been doing quite a few things this year, and this is another new release from them, which is coming up soon, which is the Typhoon K. Now, the Typhoon, it's what we call an MRAP, a mine-resistant, ambush-protected armored vehicle. There are a series and family of these vehicles, but this is the Typhoon K. I think I described it in the links that we put up. Is that you stick a shadow logo on the side of this. This would not look out of place in Jerry Anderson's UFO. It has that kind of utilitarian Derek Meddings look to it.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who built the Hurricane, and I'm thinking of Jen Wright here, will know that this is, well, look at this, 372 parts. This isn't going to be a weekend project, but it is absolutely brimming with detail, including what looks like a full interior as well.
Oh, it looks great.
Which you can display with the back hatch open, and the top hatch is open. What a fabulous looking vehicle! I mean, it's a shoebox with 6 wheels, but doesn't it just look really kind of futuristic? I think
I'm definitely going to paint one of those in metallic blue and put shadow markings on it. That's for sure. I also think that would look fabulous if you replace those wheels with tracks, and really went and created a mobile. One of the shadow mobiles from that. That's. I have to say, the other thing that attracts me to this as well is that Zvezda are really on the ball with the people that build the models for these display pictures. That is a beautiful job that really inspires me to have a go at one of those. That everything about it just screams quality, doesn't it? From the quality of the detail, from the way it's painted, the way it's deckled, everything about this model and the information that they've presented to us, that looks like a quality product. What a brilliant looking thing.
Again, I don't really have a large amount of interest in modern Russian vehicles, but I do have an interest in interesting looking models. This ticks all the boxes. I mean,
it's great.
I like things like the fact that you've just got that color juxtaposition going on with the hatches with the little red handles and things. I just think that it just looks really quite brutally awesome. But as I say, nearly 400 parts. This isn't going to be a kind of weekend build. I think the funny thing is, it was at Telford year before last. Obviously, now I think Jen was looking at the Zvezda Typhoon kit on the hobby company stand. I think she said, "Oh, I'd quite fancy building that over the weekend." So it was like, "Oh, okay, Jen, there you go." And here are the rest of the sprues.
It's a very impressive looking thing. So I'm assuming this is imminent, this kit. Andy Farmer will no doubt tell us, but I'm assuming that this is certainly within the next few months will be released. So we'll be able to get our hands on a copy and get cracking on it. So brilliant looking thing, brilliant. I love it.
That is a beautifully finished model as well.
Oh, it's great. I mean, the weathering and the dust layers underneath. It's just enough, isn't it? You look at it and think, that would be enough to get your point across.
This is what I'm saying about it tells the story. So it's immediately conveying what this vehicle does, the terrain it operates in, without it suddenly becoming an exercise in its own kind of exercise in weathering. This is the epitome of what good display models should look like, and Yeah, absolutely fabulous. So we come on to the last thing for tonight, and we've already covered this one before, but
we've covered its partner rather than it.
All right, okay.
We covered the Tamiya Porsche 934. You may well remember the one that was painted in Jägermeister colours, which we all adore. Well, we thought it would happen, and so it has. They have now re-released the Martini Porsche 935. This one here, they've given it a spruce up along with the plastic parts. I think it's now got some etch in it as well, which the Jägermeister kit has also got in it. You can see here, which offer lots of details, including parts that will allow you to create the seat straps for this, which are also included. You can see them here in the bottom left-hand corner. Those are the new decals for this, which will be no doubt a step up from the decals that were in the original kit when it was first released in 1980 So you can sort of see from this, but this is a fabulous kit. I have to. I mentioned that I really fancy building the Jägermeister kit. Well, I'd build either of these. I really do love the idea of putting one of these together and putting it in my display case, because it is just fabulous looking thing. As many of you will have pored over Tamiya catalogues over the years and seen this thing and looked at all of the detail. Obviously, it's basically detailed from front to back, and it's typical of their products from that era. So this is when Tamiya really hit the ground running, and you could see what they were prepared to do with their 12 scale kits. Full cockpit, full engine bay, full frontal section, which has got like all the fuel tanks and all that kind of thing, and all the various other ancillary bits and pieces in there. It's a wonder, and I know a lot of people have been really champing at the bit to get hold of one of these kits. In fact, I think that somebody from these parts might have already just bought one of these in a particular part of. There we go. Bought it last week. So I know that Mike was particularly excited by the idea of having one of these, and we will of course be ensuring that he builds the kit and shows us the progress over the coming months. There will be no let up in our desire to get him to do that, but I really would love to build one of these. I have to say.
You know what? I again, this almost starts to sound like a challenge, but it isn't. If there is a kit that I would like to build, a car kit I'd like to build, and I'm sure one actually needs building because it's being reissued very soon, and that's the big Airfix Bentley.
Oh right, yeah. Because
my late uncle built one of those back in the old 1970s, and I just remember seeing it in the display cabinet. It's just gorgeous. Absolutely.
I mean, that thing, there are certain kits, aren't there, which fall into a rarefied list of bona fide classics.
Yeah.
There are. And the list isn't that big, but there is a list. And we all kind of know what it is. The Airfix Bentley is a bona fide classic. These 12 scale Porsches are bona fide classics. 24 scale Airfix aircraft, similar kind of thing. To me, Flak 36, 37, stone cold classics. And I guess we all sort of look at them and think, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing those kind of things. So I agree with you on that. And I think, at the risk of making it sound like I'm getting too old for all of this, and I can't. I think now's the time to do it. If you're going to, I posted a photograph yesterday of the box art for Tamiya's 32nd scale F14 Tomcat, which I have in the loft. I have two of them, in fact, one of which is sort of partly started, and I have a newer version of this. If not now, when? That's my attitude. If not now, when?
If I was to use the phrase in a PG-13 version, it is use the facilities or vacate them immediately.
Yes, indeed. Leave the pot.
Yeah,
that's the feeling I've got now. You and I are the same age. We're not 20 anymore. You can't say, right, well, I'll wait another 10 years until I'm 30.
I think that was brought home for me a couple of years ago when I went up into the attic to try and find something I needed for a work project, and which is one of the benefits of having like a gazillion kits up in the attic. and I kind of got distracted, and I picked up something. I thought, oh, I remember picking it up, and kind of, I think to myself, oh, I'll build that, at some stage. Then realizing that what I picked up was from 30 years ago. And then thinking, well, if I'm repeating that process now, and something that I might have bought from a model shop, perhaps something I might have even bought from the Frew Model Centre a couple of weeks prior to that trip up into the attic, and then the next time I think about it is when I am 83.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Exactly. And I was my good friend Tony Burke, who's you may know from my page. He was clearing. His father passed away, and he offered me some of his older kits. They were clearing the house, and Tony got a load of older kits, and he offered to give me some of these kits, which I was very grateful for. And they're all very old kits. And amongst those kits was 32nd scale Hasegawa F16, two of them, prototype one and the secondary release, which was the one of the sort of the NATO cut scheme. And I've had a look at up in the loft, and I really fancy building that. And I think, oh well, I'll have a go at those at some point in the future. If not now, when am I going to do those? Because the thing that my feeling now is, as much as I love new kits and I build as many new kits, I've just spent 120 hours building Italer's Tornadoes. So I'm happy to build new kits. But also I have a list of classics that I want to build before I'm not able to build anymore. So they have to, in my imagination, they're taking precedent for me over everything else. And so that list of classics I'm going to have to deal with at some point and have a go. Tomcat is one of those kits. I've wanted to build that kit since it first came out in 1981 or whenever it first came out, and I've never had the chance to build it, and I really want to build it. You want to build that Bentley blower, you've got to build it, And I say to everybody else who's watching this, if you have kits that you want to build and you keep putting them off, don't get on with them, because we're not, like I say, we're not 18 anymore. We crack on with them and just enjoy them as they are. And the other thing that I feel as well, I've got an awful lot of plastic in my loft that's in boxes that is going to have to be dealt with at some point. And I want to make the most of doing that and sort of and build them up and either pass them on to other people so they can enjoy them or whatever. And I think I'm doing my bit for recycling by recycling kits in my loft into made-up models.
Yeah, well, Jose Tuxedo makes a good point. He says, hate to say this year I got diagnosis of metabolic arthritis, among other things. I'm 45. We are not getting younger. Don't bet on it. Build that kit. Build that kit, indeed, Jose. Absolutely. Indeed. And absolutely. Also, Matt Whiting, if you're still watching, obviously, Airfix will need one of those Bentleys built. Nudge, nudge. So, they will need one built actually at some stage. But scale model 2021 with a bit of luck. But yeah, it's I'm talking to the devil. There he is. He says, always feels a bit morbid rifling through second-hand kit stores at Telford. As you know, most of the kits come from house clearances. Do you know what? I had this. I'm gonna have to word this carefully, but I do remember a few years ago, I was in a charity bookshop in Bristol, and I went in there, and it was like I started going through the bookcase, and I was like, "Oh, look at this aircraft illustrated book on might have been Bristol Blenheim or something." I thought, "Oh, I haven't seen one of those for ages. Brilliant!" And then kind of went on a bit more, and I thought, "Oh, fantastic! There's a kind of like a Airfix guide to building armored vehicles. Look, brilliant price and whatever." And there's another little Airfix guide, but and then suddenly it just like a whole row of books, and then I suddenly had that chill, and I thought, "Yeah, this is a clearance, isn't it?" Yeah. I did my bit and bought them all. So
yes, that's exactly how I feel about it now. And so, this year has been great because I've done a lot of the models that I wanted to do as I was a kid. I've sort of gone. I'm slowly going through the list. Tomcat is on that list. That F16, I had that bought for me as a Christmas present when it first came out, and I never did finish it properly. I now want to finish one of those F16s. I will, of course, be knocking on the door of a particularly talented decal designer who might perhaps have a silhouette cutter that could perhaps make me some masks for a kit, for one of those kits, because the decals aren't that great. But if you know anybody that could help me along those,
Funny you say that, because I'm indebted to Drew Manton of this county,
of this parish.
Yeah, exactly. Who put me onto this material called Oromask, which I bought a roll of it. Just going to buy some more of it, and I've been using that. I was using that last week to test fit some decal designs that had to be shaped to flow around kit parts and things. Oromask is brilliant. It's just like, it's a fantastic material. So yeah, that's easy to do. And yeah, on my bucket list, and I am hoping, if he's watching, and if Mr. Farmer is watching, that he will actually say to me at next year at some stage, look, I really do need to have either that big Kettenkrad or the big Kugelwagen built up for a display model, because I'm just like, let's go then, let's do it. You know, indeed. So, and this is a very good point here from Michael Scott, actually, which is, he says, it's better to have memories than dreams. Build and enjoy, having an absolute ball with the big Airfix Hurricane, which actually is kind of like the intro that I wrote for your Tornado book. And of course, I shamelessly stole a quote from the late great Mr. Neil Peart, because we always do.
I would be terribly disappointed if one of his quotes or
it's that Model Airplane International. I don't think this article is written by Jonathan Mark, because it contains no references to progressive rock songs whatsoever. Yours sincerely, you know.
Yes.
But it was that line, that song, The Garden, last song they ever recorded. The future disappears into memory.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, absolutely, because, you know, we constantly look at things and think, that is something I'll do in the future. That is something I'll do one day. That's something I'll do one day. And then before you know it, it's like, it's gone. It's behind you, and you might not be able to do it. So
it does sound slightly more maudlin, and it also sounds like I'm not interested in building sort of newer releases.
We've got these artisan kits to build.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not the case.
Yeah.
But I do feel strongly that the kits that I want to build, the older kits that I want to build, have to be done. They have to be done. I have to experience them, and I have to sort of work my way through those to see what they look like once they're finished. I don't want to get to a point where I'm thinking, well, all I've done really is I've just built new kits for assessments, and I haven't built the ones that I wanted to. There's a difference, isn't there? This is the point. There's a difference between your professional responsibility and your desire to do the things that you want. And you and I are both professionals. We're professional model makers. You're a professional decal designer. I'm a professional model maker, a professional journalist. So we have our responsibilities in that sense. But we also still have our pet projects, don't we?
Yeah.
And our pet projects should bear equal weight to those things. That's the point I'm making.
And I think there is also a smidgen in all this. And when I mean smidgen, I mean, you know, literally a huge, great aircraft carrier of playing catch up with things that you weren't quite able to do when you were a kid.
Yes. That's precisely the point, isn't it?
And, you know, I might have mentioned this in the intro to your book about, you know, building that Airfix MRCA. I've got about half a dozen boxings of the Airfix the original Airfix MRCA kit now. And it's something I want to return to, because I wasn't able to finish the model how I would have liked to as a 9-year-old, because I just didn't have the skills.
Yeah.
And it's like some of it is laying that ghost to rest, but it's also a bit like I said to you about the Tamiya catalogue. As I look in the Tamiya catalogue and I think to myself, I always wanted to build that model.
Yes.
I always wanted to build that model. And when you actually get the chance, it's like, tick it off the list.
And it's extraordinary, actually, how similar our sort of modelling path has been over the years. Because that MRCA kit, I bought it as a Christmas present when it first came out. And we were at my grandmother's in Darlington in County Durham that year. And so I opened it at Christmas, but I was not allowed to build it at my grandmother's. So for the next however many days it was until we travelled home to the Midlands, all I could do was take it out of the box and dry fit parts together and everything as a 9-year-old or however old I was at the time, and then get it back home and then put it together. And I probably tube glued it together, glued my canopy to my fingers, and then painted it with a single, you know, layer of gloss, probably gloss paint from my mum's shed or something, and then put the stickers on it. So I'm a bit like you. I kind of like the idea of maybe seeing whether or not I can do a Mike Grant on that MRCA and see what's possible from that kit.
Do you know what? The funny thing is that I do remember about that. I didn't put this in the intro, but the thing I remember about that MRCA kit was that my Uncle Roger, he turned up. My Uncle Roger, essentially, there's a photograph of my Uncle Roger playing in a band back in the 1960s. And, I get all the kind of musical stuff off my mum's side of the family. Hello, Mum. And my Uncle Roger, he's on stage and he's got like this ruffled shirt and he's got this blue kind of like sort of velvet suit on. And he's got his kind of like Vox guitar. Honestly, he's Austin Powers, right? Because he's got like big, thick, like NHS glasses, Austin Powers. He even spoke like him, right? So there I was at my grandparents in Hurst, and I'm there, tube glue with this MRCA kit. My uncle turns up, and he says to me, he says, "Oh, geezer, why are you using tube glue? Oh, you should be using this." Gave me a bottle of Britfix liquid cement. First time I'd ever seen it, right? And this is the bottle, the upright bottle that you'd only have to look at it. Exactly. That was the first time I used liquid cement, and it was the Airfix MRCA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I bet you can even remember the smell of that Britfix as well. That sweet smell it had.
It's a particularly But honestly, I must have knocked more bottles of that damn stuff over than I care to think of down the years.
It was a terrible design for a bottle, wasn't it? It had all of the stability of a pyramid stood on its. I'm
just going to say, they must have sat there at Humbrol back in the 70s and they've gone through the design process and they kind of went, does this work? No. Right, okay.
I have to say, it's the ultimate marketing idea, though, isn't it? Because if you make a bottle that's that unstable, you know that people are going to keep knocking it over and keep having to replace it. They must have sold millions as a result of just, it's a genius idea. Don't sell them something that's never going to spill, that they're never going to, that they're never going to get through. You may as well sell them something that's going to spill all over the desk every 5 minutes. But
I've come up with a device now that you can put the bottle in, it doesn't fall over. Yes, Jenkins, come into my office for a moment, will you?
Yes. That's how it kind of works, but also, I mean, it does bring back memories. When you go back to like the tube glue ideas and all that sort of stuff. I remember rigging an aeroplane model using tube glue by putting a dollop of tube glue at the base of where I was rigging from, and then waiting for it to set slightly, and then dragging it upwards to the next connection point, which is, not the neatest thing in the world.
Dave Fleming's just said about stick a blob of blue tack on the bottom. I'm assuming he's talking about the bottle of glue. I'm just gonna I'm just grabbing the link here, and there is a video out there of Roy Dilley, who used to be the head of the British Model Soldier Society, and there is a video of him doing a conversion of a Airfix rifleman into I think it's a figure from the Indian Army or something.
It's a classic, isn't it?
But when you look, he's got a bottle of Britfix and he's literally got this kind of like armored surround to stop it from falling over.
A block of aluminium.
Yeah, it is. I will find the link and I will post it up. Because it's utterly brilliant. It's Roy Dilley, legend, him and Bob Symes. I mean,
I have to say that's from a TV program, isn't it? From
Model World.
Model World, that's right. And I think I watched a little bit of that earlier on this year. But it's a stone cold classic, isn't it? How they created things, and I think it might have been discussed in that video where they created goop. That put sprue goo,
liquid sprue.
Easy for me to say. Dropping that into bottles and using that to sort of create the patterns that they needed, and stiffening up paper, I think, as well.
Painting. I'll find the link to it and I'll put it up on the page. But honestly, it's an absolute classic. It really is. And we'll probably talk about that on Wednesday. Model World, Bob Symes. People have said, "What are they talking about?" It's like, trust me,
It really is. It's kind of a classic, and they sort of fit it in with some of the books that we've got from back then. We've talked, we've talked a lot about those kind of classic publications, haven't we? The various sort of modelling guides from back then. And you and I are both, I think it's fairly safe to say that we're anoraks about all that nonsense, aren't we? And students of the past when it comes to modelling. But those videos they're just kind of lovely, though, aren't they? They're not just they're the sort of thing that you watch. They have an innocence about them that I find deeply relaxing.
They have a John Noakes scaling Nelson's column on a rickety ladder with no safety line innocence to them. Yeah, and if anybody's wondering about that, you got to Google that. That's an absolute.
Oh yeah, if you've got no head for heights, it might not be a good idea, though.
Unbelievable. That's the last in the series of Blue Peter. Anyway, look, right, we've overrun slightly, but never mind. This always happens when we're on a roll. Any other business, please?
I don't think we have. Although, can I add one to the rumour mill?
Oh, here we go.
Read today that a certain company who are making a 32nd scale whirlwind might be turning their attention to 72nd scale 2-stage mosquitoes in 72nd scale.
They showed that, didn't they show that some time ago? Or was it KP? I can't remember. Somebody did, and everybody got excited, and then it never happened. So
it would appear that there are now CAD renders of said items. So one to add to the rumour mill. We introduced this little featurette, didn't we, last week? This is where we drop in.
This feature.
Yes, I did introduce this. That is very true. But
see, I work in the industry, so when people always do these rumours, I'm just like, oh, for goodness.
It was just something. It was actually dropped on Facebook, so I'm assuming that there is some volition to this story. So we will wait and see. CAD posted today.
CAD posted today. I'm assuming he means computer-assisted drawing and not Terry Thomas. You're Ethel Shah. You're a CAD and a bounder. You are.
Incidentally, with the passing of the great Barbara Windsor, I watched Carry On Camping yesterday for the first time in a while. It really is the most inappropriate film I've seen in a very long time.
How much is it going to cost to say it? £1.
Pound. Yes. Pound. Yes. It's extraordinary.
When I hopefully will never have it again, because I've got my flu jab on Tuesday. When I had flu for the first time, December 2017, and I just lay here an absolute wreck over Christmas. And about the only thing I could do was just lift the controls up, and it was like an endless loop of Carry On films on ITV4.
Brilliant.
Most of which I sat there mouthing along to in a semi-comatose state. But I'm always grateful for them, because despite the fact that some of them are crushingly bad, they were just the perfect thing I needed.
Yes, they are. Carry On Camping very much is the Blackpool postcard, isn't it? It's
a McGill postcard made into a 3-dimensional.
It really is. I did giggle quite a lot to it, I have to say, and then I was thinking, "God, this is terrible."
No, but they are good. Carry On, Fiber, fantastic.
Yes, indeed. So
there are no devils in skirts. No, I don't know though.
Yes. So, and on that bombshell. I think that we will adjourn until Wednesday, when we'll find something no doubt interesting to.
Let's do it Sunday. Well, it was a modelling show, but they started talking about Model World, Blue Peter, John Noakes, Carry On. At least they didn't talk about mince pies. No, we're saving those for Wednesday, people.
Yes, we will. And the reason for that is that, shamefully, I haven't had any this weekend.
I haven't had any this weekend, but I think I might have one of my Glenfiddich ones tonight.
Yes, I might have one now, but I haven't. I certainly hadn't had one up to this point. So yes. So well, thank you, John, for your.
Well, thank you. We've overshot by 20 minutes tonight, but never mind. It's Christmas. We're just kind of like loosening up a bit. It just remains for me to say thank you to everybody who watched. Your patience and your perseverance is most appreciated. We will be back Wednesday for our midweek jam session, whatever we call it, where we'll just pick a subject and run with it.
Do we, given that is it not the last Wednesday before Christmas?
No, it's not.
When's Christmas Day?
Christmas Day, I think, is 25th.
So when is that Friday? Is it? Is Christmas Day a week on Friday?
It's a week Friday, so we've got 2 Wednesdays left.
Well, the reason I mentioned that, I know I was getting slightly. Are we going to have a best of Wednesday night? Where we
got a short show.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking along the lines of best of this show, because indeed that would be less than 5 minutes, and that would be stretching the second 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Are we going to do a best of our releases and that kind of thing?
We could do it. It does mean I've got to go back and dig out all the images and kind of format them and put them back up on screen, and it's a lot of work. But yeah, I suppose we could.
We could at least discuss with our viewers, not just us. We could have it as a collaborative effort. We could do our own top 5. Couldn't we?
I like that. I like the idea of that. Yeah, we certainly are going to do that. We are going to do that kind of end of year review. So we're going to do that. So
for everybody to put their thinking caps on, what their top 5 are, because they would be different from ours, won't they?
I think that'd be good. I think we will see where the commonality is and where the disparity is.
Yes, and by then I'll have bought some sherry, so I'll be slightly sherried up, which will make my top 5 far more interesting than it perhaps needs to be.
When you say sherry, are you actually going to buy proper sherry, as in Harvey's Bristol Cream? Or you just
yes, I would imagine so.
Good, right. Let's get it right.
I would imagine so. I mean, we could have our own little online party that night, couldn't we?
We could have a little online party.
Sherry and mince pies.
Absolutely, yeah. On that note, it just remains me to say, well, everybody stay safe, stay out of trouble. Keep an eye on your local tier restrictions, and just try to be good, sensible, kind, considerate people. I think it's the best way of putting it. We will be back on Wednesday. So until then, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
See you later.